everybody, and welcome to the first stream of the week. And you know what that means? Just like Danny, I'm going to gift some memberships. So here we go. I'm going to gift 5 memberships, which I do every week to match your incredible generosity. Thank you, 80s model. There we go. 5 new members. If you would like to be able to receive a membership, all you have to do is say that you'll, I just Google how to do it. You turn on accepting memberships or accepting gifts. And then YouTube selects whoever interacts with the channel the most. So if you comment on videos, if you've been a member before, if you like the videos, stuff like that, if you're a subscriber. That's how they're given out. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Optimus Prime. And I see we have some birthdays in the house. Let's see here. Who's got a birthday here? Choose the Bear has a birthday. Alexander Padilla has a birthday. Is it Sarah's birthday as well? But it's very nice to see so many people spending their birthday with me and all of us. All right, so we have 3 absolutely fantastic stories to go over today. And once again, I'm shooting for 3 live streams. Oh, thank you, Green Lantern's Light. That's very generous of you. Also, I'll let you know now, there will be a BTT focus group, that's what I'm calling it now, on Friday. And we'll be talking about the Marvel 2025 slate. So it'll be pretty exciting. So that'll be a little bit earlier in the day on Friday. All right, so again, let's get started with the 3 stories of the day. Please keep your questions and comments to the story at hand. Please feel free to talk while we're going through this, but I'll be focused. I'll look at your questions and comments at the end of each story, and then, of course, as always, at the end of each stream, you can ask me anything you'd like for the final 10 minutes. All right, here we go. Story number 1. Here we go. Boop. Oh no, I covered up. All right. All righty. Whew, this was quite the surprise this morning. And a very interesting announcement on the Australian Today Show. The Denzel Washington had some kind of interaction with them. It was interesting. It was clearly, sometimes, when they have these junkets, it's not always the on-air talent that does the questions. Sometimes they'll have a producer do it. Not even sometimes a main producer, but they'll have someone from behind the scenes ask the actual questions, get that footage, and then clearly they had an anchor re-record the questions and then tee up Denzel's very carefully constructed answers. He kind of announced the final stage of his career. That's why I think this makes for a particularly interesting story today. Hey, Adam. What I like about it is that it not only allows us to talk about Black Panther 3, which is apparently happening, but also, Denzel Washington himself and his legacy. He is one of the last movie stars. Like he and Leonardo DiCaprio are one of the last movie stars. I don't know if the movie star will continue in the same way. Oh, thank you, Gareth. That has been the case in the past. I do believe Tom Cruise. That's right, Danny. I would say Denzel, Tom Cruise, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Maybe Sandra Bullock. Nicole Kidman, maybe to a degree. Nicole Kidman's going to work forever. She's going to be like, make an AI version of me. I don't care. But, I don't know. I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is a movie star, to be honest with you. I'm talking about someone, a true movie star is someone who really can capture the conversation and who people go and see no matter what. A movie star is someone who says, the general public says, if they're in a movie, I'm going to go. Tom Hanks, I think, was a movie star. I think he hurt himself quite a bit with a lot of his political statements. So I don't know if he has the same pull that he once did. But Denzel Washington was a huge star. Will Smith was also a star. I don't know if he still is or he's hurt a little bit. We'll see if he can recover that. I guess I would put Will Smith and Tom Hanks to some degree in the same category. But yes, I think that Denzel is really, really incredible what he's accomplished. And we're going to talk about that because a lot of it's not even that apparent. So first off, something that he taught, some of you guys are just trolling with some of those suggestions. All right, so Denzel's final films. I put a question mark. We'll discuss why I put a question mark in a moment. But let's just say these are the thoughts that Denzel Washington put out into the universe this morning. So he said he's 70 years old. He doesn't know how many more movies he wants to make. You know, a lot of talent's talking about retirement these days. Denzel has joined the retirement party, and apparently, you know, he doesn't, you know, he only has a couple. I mean, this is quite an aggressive slate. This could take about 5 to 10 years to make. So this would take him to like 80 or so. All right, so Hannibal. That's right. He wants to do a movie of Hannibal. Hannibal is a famous military leader who took on Rome, and it has been argued as to whether or not Hannibal was, what his ethnicity was. He was born in northern Africa, so there is a very strong case to make for him being, a black historical figure. So that's a movie that he wants to make. I think that obviously, I'll see what you guys think of a Gladiator. I mean, I will say Denzel is very good in Gladiator. I mean, he's holding that entire movie up. Then he said Black Panther 3, and the internet lost its mind, and he said Ryan Coogler was writing a role specifically for him. I don't know how you can have the Black Panther movies and Denzel Washington doesn't appear in them, so I'm glad that's happening. Then we'll talk about more, of course, about Black Panther 3 in a moment. Then he said that Steve McQueen, he was talking to Steve McQueen, not the actor. Steve McQueen obviously is the name of a very successful award-winning filmmaker out of the UK. He did 12 Years a Slave. He also has worked extensively with Michael Fassbender. And also his new movie Blitz with Saoirse Ronan, which I think really, some people have called it out and said they didn't think it would, I think Blitz is an important movie because it does shine a spotlight on the actual diversity of that region during World War II in the UK, which has, been covered over by, again, it's all who writes the history books, and McQueen is using his voice to adjust the history books. I haven't seen Blitz yet, Britt, but it is considered a strong contender. And so Steve McQueen, I can see why Denzel would want to work with him. And he said he really wants to focus on who he's working with. Although I'd be like, I can't believe you wasted your time with Gladiator 2, man. That could have been used for something else. But I can understand him wanting to work with Ridley Scott. And it is a very interesting role. But I mean, if he's making Hannibal, he didn't need to make Gladiator 2. All right, so anyway. Then he's going to get a Shakespeare on. He's going to do a movie version of Othello, a role that he's played several times. In fact, he's going to be on Broadway this year. Well, in 2025, opposite Jake Gyllenhaal for Othello. And he's going to finally bring that performance. He said he's played Othello his whole career. He did it at the beginning of his career. He's doing it again now. And he'd like to do it, for posterity on film. And I mean, obviously, who wouldn't bankroll that? But then also he wants to do King Lear, and he's done. Didn't he do Hamlet? He's done. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm not a big Shakespeare fan. I respect Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare obviously is, obviously commendable, and I can see why actors would want to all, play in that pond. Oh, Macbeth. Thank you, Macbeth. But I'm just not personally a big Shakespeare fan. But I can understand him wanting to. I think he not only flexes his muscles as an actor, but I think to some degree he broadens not only the audience for Shakespeare because they can see themselves reflected in it, although obviously some people these days are saying that's not a factor. But also I think it broadens the idea of who can be in a Shakespeare play. And I think that's really wonderful. So I think that's important work that he's doing there. So I obviously am very in favor of it. Jen would like it. Jen's like, let's talk about Marvel. He should be Blue Marvel. Maybe. Let's see. Let's talk. I mean, I think they're a little heavy on science ideas in like science characters in the Wakanda movies, I guess you could to some degree call them. All right. Now, first thing I want to say is uncertain Hollywood. I think it's interesting that he would say all these things as if they're fact when just ask Mahershala Ali whether or not things sometimes go wrong. And Kevin Feige's still claiming that Mahershala Ali is going to be Blade. You know who Kevin Feige's like? He's like Maleficent, talking to Prince Philip, saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'll let you go see the princess one day when you're just a bag of bones and you can hardly get up the stairs." That's Kevin Feige keeping Mahershala Ali in the waiting room for Blade. He's like, "Don't worry, man, it's coming. Someday it's going to happen." And you're like, Mahershala, get out of here. He's never gonna. I mean, I'm sure, but I think Mahershala Ali feels that as soon as he leaves, somebody else will get bladed and it'll move forward aggressively, and he'll be like, no. So it's a very difficult situation. I feel for him. But yes, I think that it's interesting that Denzel said all these things when they're not necessarily going to happen. I'd be like, to some degree, did you just jinx it? I'm a big believer in that, and I don't know if I were him, I would have said these things out loud. All right, so there he is, Ryan Coogler. I love Ryan Coogler. I've interviewed him from the beginning of his career with his first film, Fruitvale Station. Wonderful, wonderful talent. And talk about changing the game in Hollywood and broadening opportunities and perspective for everybody. Ryan Coogler, of course, is one of the people at the forefront of that. All right, so Ryan Coogler's Wakanda. I'm very glad that he is working on a third film, and I hope he'll direct it as well. I think that the Creed movies continued along quite nicely, even though Coogler, I have to tell you, Ryan Coogler, this has been a journey he did not expect because of the tragic sudden passing of Chadwick Boseman. So Ryan Coogler did an incredible job bringing Black Panther into the world, and then, because of real-life tragic circumstances, he had to really handle taking him out of it. And, the original T'Challa, that's why I do not believe that the role will ever be recast, and we'll talk about that. But also, now that I think that he did a great job with handling what happened with Chadwick and keeping Black Panther as an overall corner of the MCU on track, I think now he's going to want to make sure he puts Black Panther in a good space before he moves on, to make sure that they have I think they'll have a new male T'Challa. We'll talk about that. And I think that, he'll want to make sure, he did a very good job pivoting, but now I think he's going to want to get it back in the space that it needs to be so that Ryan Coogler can personally move on. All right, so, but, I think that Ryan Coogler has done a wonderful job with Black Panther and what it's come to represent. I think it's just truly been very incredible, and the films have been really incredibly successful. All right, so commercially and critically. So a third film. Woo, boy, I'm excited. I'm very glad they're doing a third film. Although I have to say, somebody tweeted me, they DM'd me earlier today about just how freaking long it's taken for anything to happen over in the MCU. And I really agree with that. I think it's taken on forever. And it's like, at what point is this movie going to get made? It's being written right now, but, you're looking at a movie that probably won't come out until 2027, 2028 maybe. They might fast track it, but it's going to be very far off. Probably by 2030. We hope. David just wrote the same thing. That's incredibly far away. So I believe that they will be long enough that this Prince T'Challa character, who's named after his papa, can take over the role. I think that they'll find a way to age him up. I think they can just do it. The MCU jumps around all the time, and it'll be such a long time. I think this character, I don't think he'll be a man, but he can certainly be somebody who's in their early to mid 20s. You can get an actor in that age range, and they can play the character for quite some time. So I think that's totally what's going to happen. And, Ryan Coogler has clearly set that up. He named the character T'Challa, after his father, but so that the character would still be called T'Challa. And I think that's a way to not, Adam Sphere says, isn't early 20s a man? Well, it depends if you're going by medieval rules or I think current rules. I think that anybody who's older than their early 20s knows that you know so little in your early 20s. You're like, you are about to be a baby. And also if you even look at these actors in that age range, early 20s, they look much younger. So I'm telling you, I think it'll be an actor in their early 20s playing a teenager. That would be my guess. I think you'll get somebody early 20s, but playing someone who's supposed to be 16 or 17. Because, they can't jump this character up that much. I think that would be nuts. Hey, Rayswig. So I think that's what they're going to do. So that's what I think for sure what they're going to do with T'Challa. For sure. All right? And don't worry, Shuri will get her moment. Let's talk about female versus male. Shuri will definitely get her moment to, be in the Avengers movies and still get to be the Black Panther for a little bit of time. But I think even in the comics, Shuri wasn't, long game. She was a very interesting character. She'll continue to be an interesting character. She doesn't even have to retire the Black Panther mantle. You can have two Black Panthers running around. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think she would be more of like a supporting than a lead in this section. All right, so we'll talk about Blue Marvel in a second. Now, female versus male. I do think that it was really wonderful the way the second film celebrated Black women, who are a very big part of, many would argue, not only pillars, but the pillar of their community. I can't speak for other countries, but I think that's felt particularly in the United States, particularly in our political conversations, not only with the way the vote went. Black women supported Kamala Harris more than anyone else, more than any other category, including even Black men. But also Black women have done an incredible amount of work in the political spectrum fighting for the Democratic side. You're talking about all kinds of female leaders, at the state and the federal level. A lot of superstars that are coming out of government who are Black women right now. And so I think that recognition was key to Wakanda Forever. When they lost T'Challa, who kept Wakanda afloat? It was the women. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I'm sure that Black Panther and the Wakanda movies will continue to have strong female characters. I think that Ryan Coogler is very aware of what Black women contribute to the community. That's interesting to say that, Green Lantern's Light. I thought Angela Bassett personified that beautifully. All right, but I do think that it's important to switch back to a balance. I think that, while Wakanda Forever was really a touching film and incredibly well done, I think that Ryan Coogler understandably wants to shift back. It's the pendulum effect. And there was a very strong emotional and gut reaction to Chadwick Boseman's passing. Particularly because it was ground zero. The film was ground zero. The people in front of him behind the camera experienced that loss, and they said they used the movie to process that loss. And when you watch the movie, that is very abundantly clear. It is very much a movie about, not only loss, but sudden loss in someone's prime. But I do feel that I would not leave Wakanda in this shape. This is not how I think Ryan Coogler wants to leave Wakanda for the next talent to take it over. So I think you're going to see a lot of swinging Wakanda back to the main focus and to be a more the first film had wonderful female characters, but I think Ryan Coogler is going to want it to be more balanced. Boy, if anyone's in that movie, what is it, Sinners? Anyone who's in the right age range is going to be like, could I be in the new Black Panther movie, Ryan? I certainly would. I'd be like, wow, Ryan, I just want to tell you how much I like Black Panther. What a great, have you started casting that yet? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So that's what I would be saying. Now, who is Denzel Washington going to be playing? That was much speculation today when he said that he was having a role written specifically for him. Now, obviously, someone might say, is he going to be the villain? Because he's such a successful villain in his career. He can be a very compelling villain. But I got to tell you, maybe it's because I just watched Gladiator 2, but I'm tired of, I would like to see heroic Denzel. Particularly because what Denzel means for the Black community, both, in the broader sense and within Hollywood. I would like to see him be a positive aspect of the Black Panther films. So I wouldn't have him be a villain. Now, he could be a mentor to the new T'Challa, right? Who would be T'Challa's father figure? He could have multiple father figures. He could draw on the community. But I think, you're going to want to give him like a Henry Ducard, like for Batman kind of situation. Some people are saying he could be the original Black Panther. He could be the spirit of the original Black Panther. That's kind of a cool role. But I would like him to be a bit more grounded. He could be Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel is basically like Reed Richards, but as a Black character. Obviously he has more nuance, but if you wanted me just to like boil it down, although he has a cape, he has he has the mind of Reed Richards and kind of like the power set of Superman is how I would describe, and the gray sideburns of Reed Richards as well. he's a cool character. He certainly has. I agree, Tyler, that I don't think he would fit with Wakanda. And also, Shuri and Riri are already doing the science thing. I don't need somebody else in the lab. I want someone who gets us out of the lab. That's how I would say it. And I think, considering who's raising him, I think that young T'Challa probably spends a lot of time in the lab and in the palace. But who's getting him out into the world? Who's getting him out, to feel the soil of Wakanda? And so I would want, Denzel Washington's character to potentially realize that. Chris, the very first Black Panther is not a bad idea, but then he'd have to be a ghost, and I don't know how I feel about that. That's right, Tyler. Winston Duke's character would be like a great uncle. He'd be like that great uncle, that awesome uncle that, everyone's a little nervous to leave you with. But you have such fun and learn so much. Brother Voodoo, I don't know about Brother Voodoo. I think Brother Voodoo is you want a character that has a little bit more leeway and can go on for a little bit longer. And I also feel, I would honestly like him to be an original new character. That's what I would prefer. And I think, Ryan Coogler will take great care with that. That's what I would like to see. I'd be fine with all of this. This is fine. But I think the mentor is what I would like to see because he's so much a mentor. He was a mentor to Chadwick Boseman, which we'll talk about in a moment. And, he was, very much, I think he's done some, he's a mentor as you're going to see to Hollywood in general. So we'll see. Like a Henry Ducard type figure is what I'd be interested in. Oh, you want a poll, Dan? All right, let me ask. Poll. What kind of character would you like to see Denzel play in Black Panther 3? All right, so there is villain, mentor, and then hero, like his own hero. And by the way, anyone watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. All right, so then while you guys vote, obviously the big question is Storm. Now, Storm made her MCU, well, she was already in X-Men 97, but they put her in What If with the same voice actress, by the way, which was very nice, which is why I think you're seeing her in more animation first than live action, because they have that actress. She's already in the sound booth doing X-Men 97. They can slip her a couple of lines for What If, and everybody, I was surprised this didn't get more attention. I think because people really want a live action Storm, and I think, I don't know. I feel like, why do you think more people weren't excited about this reveal? Also, I think Marvel dropped too many trailers in a row. And they dropped another one today. You're like, slow your roll, dude. We're still talking hopefully about the last one. But here, it's like the What If is like, she's, wielding Mjolnir, lightning, stuff like that. Now, I would really, 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 really like to see Ryan Coogler launch this character in the MCU. We've been talking about it for a very long time. I feel very bad for Jodie Turner-Smith. I think she is obviously a very good fit with this character, but I'm just too nervous after The Acolyte. I would look for somebody new, I'm sorry to say. I really, although, I would ask Ryan Coogler who he wanted, to be honest with you. I would say, hey, Ryan Coogler, whoever you want to cast, I'm okay with it, because I think he has such strong choices. But we've said for quite some time that we really want Ryan Coogler to do this character. He really, I think, understands. I think he has a great, he just really fits very, very well with the MCU and, I think representing the Black community. And I think he takes it with care and he takes it very seriously. I think you wouldn't have to worry about colorism with Ryan Coogler. I really would like him. I would be disappointed if he did not introduce the MCU Storm. I think that would be, I've even said that even if it's not in one of his projects, I would ask him, hopefully he would just do it, maybe he would just advise. But I would really, I got to tell you, the visuals for Black Panther 3, can you just imagine the Black Panther 3 poster and trailer with the lightning and the African plains? I mean, that would be just incredible. I think visually it would bring a lot to the film as well. I really think, and and Black Panther, the history with the character and Wakanda, at least in the comics, is quite strong. So it has that whole situation that Kevin Feige likes, where it is based on the comics to a degree. All right, now, so I just am very excited about this, and I couldn't be happier. And I really do strongly feel that how can you not have Denzel be part of the Black Panther trilogy, considering what it's come to represent and what Denzel himself represents. All right, so let's talk about Denzel Washington's legacy. Denzel Washington is a fascinating figure, and he's very quiet. He doesn't like to talk that much. He doesn't give a lot of interviews. He's very private, which of course he's entitled to. But we don't know a lot about Denzel. But I think as he gets older, we start to learn more and more about him, and we start to realize that we've only scratched the surface in his contribution to Hollywood. So first off, his family. He has quite the legacy himself as a real-life papa. He has his son that we all are familiar with, John David Washington, but then also his son Malcolm Washington is becoming a big director. The Piano Lesson from Netflix is a film that was directed, also features John David Washington, but Malcolm Washington is directing that. So these two individuals look like they're very much going to carry on their father's legacy. I think neither one of them has not quite reached their father's level of stardom. It's tough to do. Denzel, again, one of the great movie stars of all time. Many feel, Sidney Poitier passed the torch to Denzel. And then, of course, obviously, Black talent has exponentially grown since then, thanks to their efforts. But, they're still extreme. I mean, I think still they're very, very at the top. Oh, Platinum Diva says, very quiet. He goes to your church in Los Angeles. Oh, that's lovely. That's so nice that he goes to a community church and everything like that. He's part of his, he didn't, I guess what I mean by that is like he didn't go Hollywood, Like, I love that. I love that, Platinum Diva. That's so cool that you get to go to church with Denzel. All right, then. Turns out he's a real-life mentor. Isn't that amazing? Now, of course, we already knew that he mentored Chadwick Boseman. This is a very sad photo. You can see that Chadwick Boseman's already sick here. That's very sad what happened to Chadwick Boseman. But they were, Chadwick Boseman, I believe this was actually to celebrate Denzel, but Chadwick Boseman spoke there. And he talked about how, Denzel Washington was directly responsible for his career and revealed that Denzel had paid for his acting school, which I thought was just really moving and touching. The way that Denzel passed it. Denzel not only paid it forward, but he didn't want any credit for it. That's amazing. What a commendable thing. But then also, it was recently revealed by Glenn Powell that Denzel also had substantially helped his career. Denzel Washington not only discovered Glenn Powell, and when he cast him in, I think it was The Great Debaters, but he helped Glenn Powell get a top Hollywood agent. Glenn Powell didn't become a star overnight, but Denzel Washington gave him his start and checked in with him over the years and has really been a mentor to him as well. And I love the fact that Denzel Washington, while of course he's really helped the Black community in Hollywood, the fact that he's also helping talent of other ethnicities is incredible and really shows, I think, a path forward that we're all hoping to see. Some of you say that it's already here, but someday, obviously, I think, I do think it's important to pay it forward and to make sure that people like you can come in through the door after you, but that doesn't mean you can't help other people as well. So it really seems like Denzel is a saint. I mean, the guy's just amazing. It's incredible. And so when I see all these amazing things about him, it makes me feel that someday there should be a biography about him. Like really an incredible biography to showcase what this man has accomplished, not only in front of the camera, but behind it, because it's truly incredible. And, I think a lot of times Hollywood talent gets vilified because, sometimes they kind of seem like they're preaching a little bit. Denzel has never done that. But I think that, when you look at the scope of what a lot of Hollywood talent have truly contributed in terms of not only allowing others to, come through the door with them, after them, but also their charitable endeavors. For instance, Kirk Douglas has given so much to elder care. in Los Angeles largely, but still, just tremendous, I think things, I can understand these individuals not wanting to toot their own horn and, talk. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me about the poll. But I think to some degree they should talk. I wish somebody would showcase their efforts. I'll do it because I think that it gives a little bit more humanity to them that I think sometimes is missing from their Hollywood profiles. All right. So let me close the poll, and you can and I'll answer your questions about this story. All right. So as for the poll, it says, what kind of character would you like to see Denzel play in Black Panther 3? 44% of you agree with me that it should be a mentor. 33% of you still want to see him be a villain. And 21% of you are looking for a hero. That's interesting. I think, obviously, I think Denzel could do better than just, with all due respect to, Blue Marvel, I think that I would like to see Denzel play something a little bit more important. All right, questions and comments. Deb says, Grace, do you think that teenage T'Challa would steal some of Miles Morales' thunder? That would be unfortunate. That's an interesting question. I never thought of that. Oh well, I'm sorry. I think that Marvel was dealt a difficult hand with Chadwick Boseman's passing, and they just have to play the hand they were dealt. And Miles Morales is doing very well in the video games and in animation. And if anything, maybe Miles and T'Challa can be friends by having them be more in the same age range. Dancing Dog 60 says, I think that's also something that's important. There's often discussion about why is there always one woman in a group? And I think sometimes why is there only one person of color in a group? And I think that, it would be great to show, again, a sense of community and camaraderie and, peers. Why is it, I think that only having one perpetuates the problem of there's only one person through the door at a time. And you're like, no, let's get a couple of people through the door. Let's burst through the door so the door's not even needed. And so I think that having more than one character, like to have Miles and to have Black Panther be contemporaries, instead of, first was Black Panther, then Miles followed him. It's like, no, they're both together. I think that would be great. Dancing Dog 60 says the series needs star power. Denzel brings it. As far as his sons, it took a long time for Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is a great comparison, Dancing Dog 60. And it did. And Michael Douglas really made his name by doing different types of roles than his father had done. By the way, little known fact, or maybe you do know it, but Michael Douglas started out as a producer and, for instance, produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and then later transitioned to acting. Hey, African Children Media. Thanks for joining this conversation. Let's see here. Platinum Diva, I'm glad you're feeling better. Let's see here. So, allegedly, Danny says, can you see my previous super chat or should I resend in chat? Resend in chat. I don't see it. Thank you, Emilio. That's very generous of you. Hold on. Roman says, could Disney's recent failures, like Lightyear and the Marvels, have predicted parallel the U.S. election? Roman, that has nothing to do with this current conversation. You're going to have to save that for the end. Let's see here. Aiden says, I'm still waiting for him as Magneto and Giancarlo as Esposito as Xavier. I don't think that'll ever happen. I think that Denzel's made it very clear, and he's going to be obviously in Black Panther as a different type of character, and so in the MCU, so they're going to have to do something else. Platinum Diva says he can honestly play anything, and we will be happy. That's true. No one's going to kick Denzel out of bed, like for if they don't like the role that he's playing. Steven Turner says Storm getting her first one ongoing comic, being in the Avengers, and What If? It seems as if she's a priority for the MCU. And she's been getting that is true. I think you can kind of sense when they want to do something with a character. I do think that Wolverine and Storm are at the forefront of who they want to get. And for some reason, Gambit, but for who they want to bring forward into the MCU first. C-Class. Yes, it is sunset. At frickin' 4:10. Winter. Leah, I'm glad you remember. Let's see here. How did I miss that question there? Allegedly Danny says, hold on, I'm going back to find it. Okay. My pleasure, Negru. Let's see here. Hey, hi, African Children Media. Sean Turner says, what about Denzel as the adversary? I don't know. Basically, just, whatever Ryan Coogler wants him to do. But I think, I'm kind of hoping for an original character. Allegedly, Danny, since Aurora is a witch in the comics, do you think she'll have crossover with the Witch Corner? Is she really a witch? She's a mutant. You meant a mutant. That was your typo. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Do you think she'll have a crossover with the Witch Corner, or will the MCU just have her... What are you talking? Just be a mutant. But the mutants aren't involved with witches. I'm not quite sure what your question is. I think Storm will exist in the X-Men, the Avengers, and the Wakanda sections. That's the sections I think she'll be in. Stephen Turner points out that Miles and T'Challa would be very different, as one would be an African culture, and Miles, of course, reflects American Black and Latino culture. And that, I agree with you, Stephen. That would be an interesting juxtaposition. That would be a fascinating juxtaposition, actually. And also, young T'Challa has grown up in Haiti, not in Africa. So that gives him a little bit of a Killmonger effect as well. That Ryan Coogler, he's a freaking genius. I mean, it's just so beautifully set up. Dan says has to be the villain because he has to be one and done. Oh, that's funny. The MCU always he could be the original Black Panther, and then he could go back to the ancestors, be with the ancestors. Let's see here. Jareem says Storm is a weather witch. Isn't she just called a weather witch? She's a mutant. She's a mutant. I don't know. I mean, sometimes some comic authors like, what am I going to use to sell my comic this month? And they come up with something like this, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Come on. I think they just call her a weather witch, especially before when she first arrived, or people don't know about that. Ben 10 says she's a mutant and a god. Well, she's an Omega level mutant. She is quite powerful. Okay. All right, I think we're ready to go on to the next story. That new Scarlet Witch comic sucks, but I mean, I respect Gizmo that you're going off of continuity, but that continuity is messed up. All right. Next story of the day. Let me get my arrow here. Story number 2. Boop. Oh, look at Mark Rylance. What a sweetheart. What a sweetheart. All right, so it was announced yesterday that, that's right, it's a Harry Potter boop. It's a magical boop. Boop, 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 boop. All right, so, or bibbity bobbity boop. That's right, Tames the Three Bears. All right, so it was announced yesterday that they are considering Mark Rylance to be in the Harry Potter HBO show to play Dumbledore. And the idea is that the reporting was that they have not even offered it to him officially, but instead they're kind of seeing, if he's available and how much it would cost, and if he would even be interested. I think they don't want him to turn down the role. So, it's kind of like basically like a whisper campaign. And I think Mark Rylance, I got to tell you, I think Mark Rylance is a really, really interesting choice. For a couple of reasons. Now, obviously, he's an Oscar winner, and he's an Oscar winner who doesn't really work that much. He's not getting a ton of calls. So I'd be like, don't tell me you can't commit for 7 seasons because you're not working. So I think you're available, Mark. So that's interesting. They were talking about the fact that Richard Harris had turned down the role for quite a long time because he didn't want that to be the way he spent his last years making Harry Potter movies. But yet he eventually did it for his granddaughter. And of course, Richard Harris did die making Harry Potter movies, and that's why Michael Gambon eventually took over the role, and he too passed away. And then, of course, Jude Law has been the most recent iteration. And I actually really like the character of Dumbledore. I think I've always been interested in him, but I thought that what Jude Law did with the character was particularly compelling. And I felt bad that he was always the B storyline in the Fantastic Beasts movies, because to me he was like so much more interesting. But, it's a big ask. Somebody has to be willing to play these characters for like a decade. And also, you need someone who looks like they could be Dumbledore, but is young enough-ish that they could play the role for 10 years, fingers crossed. So, interesting choice, but it is a big ask. It's a very, very, very big ask. Now, one thing I want to say is that I really hope they keep and continue to play up the LGBT aspect. One second. The LGBT aspect of the character. Enrique says cast an LGBT actor. That would be nice. That would be very nice. Danny, yes, Dumbledore is LGBT. Didn't you watch the Fantastic Beasts movies and his whole torrid flirtation and doomed breakup with Grindelwald? That was, to me, the most interesting parts of those movies. Oh, you only saw the first movie, Danny. Well, it was hinted at there. Anyway, I think the LGBT aspect is crucial to Dumbledore, in my opinion. I think Dumbledore, I think that, one thing, it's so sad to see the LGBT community targeted and vilified sometimes, because I think that just really, for the most part, an incredibly kind community. And I think that Dumbledore and, particularly, I think the way Jude Law portrayed him was really, really, really nice. Doom Von Doom, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I think that, I think particularly because there are a number of LGBT people who are teachers in the teacher community, in the teaching community, I think that what Dumbledore represents is really beautiful. So I really do hope that aspect is maintained. All right. Then, Wizarding World IP. They definitely have to keep this IP going. It's very, very important. Not only because, it's very valuable, but they're using it. Warner Brothers is using it extensively. They have the Harry Potter stores. They have the theme park experiences. They're getting ready to open a new theme park land based off of Fantastic Beasts in the next year. And then also the games, the video game, Warner Brothers games, the most successful game they had last year or in the past few years has been Hogwarts Legacy. So they definitely want to keep this going. So that's, I think, crucial and why they're considering this. And, you might be like, well, why a remake? And, it's like with Star Wars all over again. But we'll talk about that in a moment. I do think one issue that's interesting to note as well is J.K. Rowling. And J.K. Rowling apparently is not stopping anytime soon. No matter what happens, no matter what the blowback is or the fallout from her, extremely aggressive positions on social media and the like, it's tough. I understand that J.K. Rowling is fighting for what she believes in, but it puts people who are connected to her in a very difficult position. And if you sign on to this show, you're going to be connected to J.K. Rowling. Every time she says something, everyone in the press is going to ask the actors on this show what their response is. And that puts them in a difficult position because, they obviously, Hollywood does not like drama. They do not want to have their actors dealing with this, and they don't want that to be the conversation about the show. So I do think that it puts the show in a very difficult spot, and I think anybody signing on for that would have to consider that element. I know some people are supportive of J.K. Rowling, but I really do wish that no matter what people's positions were, I think one thing I'd like to, I'm not saying we all have to sing Kumbaya and agree on everything, but I do think I wish that we could dial down the hate. I think that the hate is, I'm surprised that it's continuing to be so aggressive. I think the lack of empathy and, trying to consider someone else's perspective is a lost art. And I think that J.K. Rowling can certainly make her comments and her what she would like to see happen. I think she can certainly get that across in a constructive, sympathetic manner. And I think she would be better received, if she did that. So it's hard. It's very tough. But yeah, If I was a Warner Brothers executive and I wanted to talk to JK, I'd say, JK, I'm not saying you have to abandon your beliefs and your position, but could we maybe change the packaging? That's what I would ask her. I'd be like, you know, why? I mean, I'd be like, JK, you're not even you're not even winning anybody over to your side with the way I'd be like, you should want to change it for that reason alone. I mean, you're not effective. But, often when people are just trapped in that kind of whirlwind of hate, it's very hard to reach them. All right. Doesn't she have family members? I'm surprised no one's like, what are you doing, man? Okay. Raphael says, I don't see how you can advocate for the discrimination of a group of people in a positive and moderate way. That is totally true. And I think that it is wrong what she says. I think that J.K. Rowling is missing the trees for the forest. And I think that it seems to me that J.K. Rowling really wants to protect women's rights. And so that's what she should focus on. I think that attacking the trans community, who have a very, very, very difficult time without anybody attacking them just to begin with, is quite cruel. All right. And I want to make it clear that I think that there's no way you can put a bow on hate, that kind of hate. I'm just talking about, if J.K. Rowling's agenda is that she wants to get rid of certain communities, well, then there's just no defending her. Okay, I've always thought that she was coming from a place where she just wanted to protect women's rights, so that's, I guess that you would have to figure that out. All right. Then, all right, let's talk about, see how J.K. Rowling derails any conversation? This is the problem for the show. You're like, wait a minute, what are we talking about, our new HBO Harry Potter show? And everyone's just like, I'm so upset about the J.K. Rowling thing, I don't even care anymore. And that's what happens. That's what happens, and this is why she's a particular problem with the situation. All right. So, series remake. A lot of people, and it was myself included, when everybody said, they shouldn't remake the Harry Potter novels, a series for each year at Hogwarts, I was with everybody. I was like, man, we already made the movies. We don't need these shows. But I got to tell you, first of all, a series, of course, can add a lot more nuance. These books are thick and dense. I think she goes a little overboard with the descriptions. But there's a lot of nuance there that they had to just gloss over for the sake of time in the movies. So there is a lot that could be done in the series that would be fresh and new from the movies. So I think it would not just seem like a total remake. It would perhaps in some ways be a better adaptation of the original novels. Then I got to tell you, this is what was really a turning point for me. Now, the Harry Potter movies came out over 10 years ago at this point, the last one. And it's been over 20 years since the first Harry Potter movie. That Daniel Radcliffe, he still looks like a little kid. But I think sometimes to his frustration. But anyway, by the way, this is another huge commitment. Remember, they were like, we're going to make 5 Fantastic Beasts movies. They never did. And so I think it's a mistake to say we're going to do 7 seasons. And you're like, what if you don't get 7 seasons? I think that's tough. All right. I think everybody, let's focus on, you guys, I think that Lucas, you might not agree with his position, but I think that he was not particularly hateful in stating it. I think you can certainly say it's untrue and you can counter it, but I don't think you should, attack him personally. Okay? So that's what I think. I only saw one comment that he made. I didn't see if he made another one. And that's, we talked the other day about bubbles. And, people are in different bubbles. And perhaps to Lucas it does seem that way. But it doesn't seem that way to me. And it doesn't seem that way to a lot of other people. Okay. Dylan says, is JK attached to the show or not? she has to be attached to it. She gets money off of it. She is the owner of Harry Potter. She will be forever attached to anything that Harry Potter does. And after, and forever, after her, it'll go to her estate. So J.K. Rowling will never not be attached to Harry Potter. So anyway, all right. So this is what changed my mind. The other day, somebody on Twitter had said give me an example of someone going hard or, not willing to talk about anything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so somebody had a response clip. Sorry about that. I cut my hand. Somebody had a response clip of Voldemort fighting Dumbledore from one of the Harry Potter movies. And I didn't remember it at all. And I've seen all the Harry Potter movies. I've seen all the Harry Potter films. And so the fact that I didn't recall it at all, because I've never had any desire to go back and revisit the Harry Potter films, because I feel to me, they were very broad strokes. To me, watching the Harry Potter roles was more about being in the world of, the movies, was more about being in the world of Harry Potter than really getting to experience the story because, the strokes were so broad. But anyway, so I felt wow, it would be great to, I think you could revisit these stories because I don't remember what happened really that much at all. And I just think I felt to me, the movie suddenly seemed like they had happened quite a long time ago. By the way, I see a lot of you are still very upset in the chat. I just want to point out something, and I think this is important to remember, and I think it's one of the reasons that people are particularly hurt by J.K. Rowling's position that she's taken. J.K. Rowling's books are quite inclusive, or at least come across as very inclusive. And for that reason, the books were and have to some degree this day been a global phenomenon, right? So I think that's because of what was perceived as the inclusivity in the original writing. So the fact that J.K. Rowling would speak out against a community that has so loved the books and which the books were so important to, and that really helped Harry Potter become that global phenomenon, I think that's what's so shocking, in my opinion. And that's why people feel, I think Dane makes a good point about a feeling of betrayal. And I just wanted to make that clear. All right, let's move on to the next story. All right. Whew. As you can see, this is a real problem for the potential series. I don't know how they're going to get around it, to be honest with you. All right, so story number 3. Into the fire, literally. Maybe that's why James Cameron did it that way. Isn't that interesting? All right, so Avatar, Fire and Ash. We got some cool new images from D23 Brazil over the weekend that I wanted to go over. And also this image here is actually from the regular D23 over the summer. But, as I just said, Into the Fire, I guess maybe that's why James Cameron chose fire people now that I think about it. Isn't that interesting? That, I think that he's going to really dive into, I think, some really, James Cameron's let's enter the chat. All right, so first, before we talk about some of the elements here, let's look at these images, all right? They're really, really impressive. So here is a really nice image of these are the ash Na'vi. They are like a chalky gray instead of blue on Pandora. And they are, I think that James Cameron's been calling them evil. I hope it's more complex than that because I think that would be a mistake, especially in light of current political events. But anyway, these are a very interesting group. This almost looks like sacrifice. Like they're sacrificing this person who has the bag over their head. I don't know. That person seems to, it could be like a face covering, but it also seems almost like that person is a prisoner of these two individuals. So I'll be curious to see. That's right, Robert Hayes. James Cameron does not do subtlety, but he's very good at what he does, which we'll discuss. But I think this image is really compelling. I can't believe James Cameron turned me into an Avatar stan. For like a decade, I was like, that movie is hot garbage. And now I'm like, ooh, what's he going to do next? All right, then, look at this. Isn't this just an incredible image? This is a fire Na'vi on a different type of banshee. I just think this is incredible. This is just stunning and looks so different, but yet also still cut from the same cloth. I'm really, really impressed with this. When I saw this image over the weekend, I was like, we're talking about that on the stream, because I was really, really impressed with how that looked. It's more bird, centric. I just think that's really amazing. Then also this other image, this was of their camp. And they seem like they're on hard times. They seem like they're having a difficult time. You can see also right here, you can see that one of the blue avatars seems to be a prisoner. But it reminded me actually a little bit of Middle America when I saw this image, and some cities that are also having problems here in the United States and all over the world. What turns people to be angry and disenchanted and disenfranchised? And that's dire circumstances. And I would say these Na'vi are having a tough time. So I thought that was very interesting. It's certainly not the idyllic life that we've seen in the first two movies with those two groups, the forest and the water tribes. So I think this is really cool. All right, let's go back to the first image, because as we talk about this, but that's I think the most compelling one still. But it's just really amazing. That's right, Adam's Fair. The fire people are just misunderstood. So the fire Na'vi. Again, James Cameron said he wanted to point out that he didn't want it to make it just humans versus Na'vi. He thought that was too simplistic, and that there were good and bad people on both sides. That there were some humans that were well-intentioned and some that were not, and the same could be said for the Na'vi. And, I think that's interesting, although, you don't want to have the good people on both sides argument, but, it's a hard situation when you're so split down the middle. And there's another upcoming show that I can't talk about that also focuses on that, which I think is really interesting. But you can't. It's on one hand you're like, these, this is, it's hard to vilify when it's 50%. You're like, well, we just can't. It's like, what are you gonna do? It's half the group. We just have to find a way to move forward. So that to me is quite interesting. So yeah, a divided people. And so I think that it would be interesting if the fire Na'vi. I hope that it's a complex portrayal. Instead, I don't want to say a betrayal, portrayal. I hope it's a complex portrayal of these characters. And I hope that James Cameron, you never know with James Cameron, but I hope that he does a good job. And I hope that some people can maybe, unfortunately, relate to these characters. I hope that he doesn't just vilify certain groups, from Republicans to native tribes. I would think it would be, I would hate to see an antiquated approach to those cultures, and in terms of history. So that's Suber. It comes out next Christmas. This movie comes out next Christmas. I'm very excited about it. But then the last thing I wanted to point out, James Cameron's emotional storytelling. I'm really impressed with James Cameron. I think that James Cameron, we've long said when he's directing himself, never bet against James Cameron. I think he does absolutely incredible work. And I think that he's able to really tap into the emotional spectrum of audiences. And I think that I couldn't believe it. Is James Cameron really ahead of the curve? This movie all of a sudden seems even more appropriate after the 2024 United States elections and what's happening in the world. So the fact that James Cameron, who put this movie together years ago, would have seen that coming and all of a sudden finds himself with very fresh commentary, that would be incredible that if he was able to do that. So I think that's just really amazing. So I think this movie, if it's done correctly, could end up being another huge home run for James Cameron and the Avatar franchise. Again, we're always like, what could he possibly do next? And then you see it and you're like, oh my God, the man's a genius. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this story? We didn't even do any questions or comments about Harry Potter because I just wanted to get out of there. It went so bad. Whew. Let's see here. Dancing Dog 60 says, not into Avatar myself, but I found the first one to be beautiful visually, but the story was so cringe. I agree, but the second one, I thought the story was fantastic. Future movie actor says, what helped The Way of Water compared to the first movie is that it was more open about its story and being more conventional, and that the focus was the top-notch visuals. Yeah, that's true. But I thought adding the military aspects, I thought that the second one was, I think, more complex. And also, it didn't wear its heart on its sleeve quite so much. Oh, let's see here. Oh, Josh Loves Movie says Pandora is definitely coming to Earth. That's a great point. I forgot about that. I think that's definitely going to be what the fourth movie is. That James Cameron, he really, he took the time to really build this stuff up and have a plan of attack. And it's just really amazing how he's really cleverly able to up the ante every time and keep it fresh. That's right, Danny. The first one is very much Dances with Wolves meets Pocahontas. It's too derivative, in my opinion. Leroy, I haven't seen much talk about the new cast members. I mean, I saw a couple of names. I think like Una Chaplin was one of them, which obviously is incredible. Robert says people involved in franchise filmmaking could learn a thing or two from James Cameron when it comes to overarching plan and world building. I agree. It never hurts to make the time and take the effort to plan things out. Obed says, is it worth watching the Avatar movies in 3D? It's the only way to watch them. They're incredible. And Future Movie Actor says, unhappy it got the nom over Wakanda Forever, though. It was very good, though. It was an incredible film. I mean, you're not going to get me to not back Avatar 2. I really was a super fan. Turned me from a hater to a super fan. Adam Sphere would like to see the Avengers in 3D. With the right director, that could be interesting. Let's see here. And Dream said Avatar is Fern Gully. To a degree. I think it's become more sophisticated, which is why I think it's a little bit better. And then Ramanzilla says, for good people on both sides argument, the aim should be less about saying they're equally good. And Ramanzilla says, and more getting to the core of what drives people in that direction, trying to understand the why. Yes. I do feel like you have it's very hard, I think obviously there are some circumstances where behavior is simply not okay. But if you want that behavior to not repeat itself, then you do have to understand where it's coming from. Adam D. Sabato, I'm going to go back and see if I can see your super chat. But sometimes after a while, YouTube says, will it be interesting to see how this is different from The Last Airbender? I feel it's so different already from The Last Airbender. I don't see any correlation between the two. And then Dancing Duck 60 says, because the Na'vi are all motion capture, why are movie stars and not unknown actors cast? Why spend... They don't have huge actors, though. I think that James Cameron has not gone with any really big names. And then Andre says, if the third movie only makes $1 billion, would it be considered a flop? I think people would be surprised, but let's see. It's a less of a break. But, again, I can't believe the second one was so successful. I mean, you would think that was lightning in a bottle with the first one. But James Cameron actually made lightning strike again. It was amazing. Sib says, this is the Fire Nation's whole plot, though. Maybe. I don't know. This looks different to me, though. And then Mary says, I wish we could see Bailey Bass and other actors through CGI. Yeah, I'm a big Bailey Bass fan after Interview with the Vampire. All right, okay, I think we're ready for the Q&A. All right, so 10 minutes. It's 4:39 until 4:49. You can ask me anything that you would like. Aiden says, any big movie trailers remaining this year? Heck yeah, Superman! Aiden says, also, I heard that Superman is coming out in December, although, duh, but potentially not for CCXP, although that makes no sense to me. As for the Mission Impossible 8 trailer, I didn't care for it. I thought it was just too much of more of the same. Marco, I'm so sorry to hear about your cousin's accident. And okay, so Marco says that their cousin got into a very bad motorcycle accident and is now in a coma, so he would appreciate everyone's prayers, even though he's not normally religious. Oh, for sure. sending positive thoughts to your friend. I'm so sorry to hear that. I had an uncle who was in a very serious motorcycle accident when he was younger, and he thankfully recovered, but he had serious injuries. I'm so sorry to hear that, Marco. It sounds like your cousin has a very nice family. Let's see here. Adam, I'm not going to review. I get a mini review for Heretic and Movie Math. I'm not sure about Anora. I'm not sure. And Elpidio, I'm definitely going to review Nosferatu, but that doesn't come out until Christmas Day, so the review embargo is not going to be for a little bit. I was only allowed to tweet about it. That's answering your question as well, Sean. But I think it's going to be a little bit. It'll certainly, I think, be after Thanksgiving when I can review it. Alex says, hi, Grace. Just wanted to thank you for all that you do. And yay, I like your Ruby badge. That's right. 4 years, baby. Let's see here. Scoria says, do you think Hollywood is going to stop pushing their opinions on politics now that they just lost? I hope not. I hope they're more thoughtful about it, and I think obviously they're not going to take it for granted that most people are on their side anymore. I really don't want to see anyone lose their spirit, but I just think, again, more empathy, more understanding other positions. It's hard because of all the hate. It's very off-putting. But, I think to some degree someone has to take the first step. I don't know why it's always got to be us. But, and obviously only to a certain extent. At some point, you're not going to keep engaging in toxic situations. But, I would hope that both sides would take a step forward towards the middle. Oh, thank you, Dancing Dog 60. Let's see here. Glubby says, hi, Grace. It's been a while. I've missed you too. Any fun or cool things coming up for you? Any word on this month's movie club stream? Yes, as I announced at the beginning of the stream, that will be on Friday. So I'll be setting up a time for that soon, and I'll be sending out the invitation. Max says, with all the Oscar buzz Mickey Madison is getting, could you see her as a possible Wonder Woman? No, I don't think she'd be a good Wonder Woman. I mean, she might be a good a good Wonder Woman for James Gunn, but I think I could see him casting her in the role, but I think it would be a mistake. I think Wonder Woman's supposed to have a regal quality to her that she does not have, which is what makes her so well cast in Anora. But I do not think that she would be good. Marnique, I see your question there. I don't see anything about Fantastic. I have no Fantastic Four updates. That Suber says, do you think Harry Potter will perform better than the Percy Jackson series? I do. For instance, I have no interest in the Percy Jackson show, but I would be interested in the Harry Potter show. I think, although I worry about the HBO brand and all this IP, I think it's really dragging them down. I got to tell you, like Dune Prophecy is so bad, I'm not reviewing it because I couldn't watch it. I couldn't get past the second episode. I stopped halfway through and I can't get myself to go back. And I felt very bad. I loved Penguin, but a lot of people didn't watch it. And I think that they're taking up a lot of the bandwidth for HBO with Warner Brothers' overall properties, and I worry about what they're going to end up doing to the HBO brand. Let's see here. You're very passionate, future movie actor. I see that. Tina of Deo, I haven't heard anything about the Sony Spider-Verse follow-up. It's taking forever. And then Adam Sears says, we always talk about the curse, whether it's DC or Game of Thrones, but now actors from those things are struggling. Should we just call it the franchise curse? Yeah, I don't know. It depends. Oh, Rayswig, thank you for the Superbia love. That means so much. I'm so glad you liked it. Let's see here. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to me. I was just thinking the other day about Nicholas Hoult and how he's really a curse, unfortunately. Like, look at what happened to juror number 2. It's Nicholas Hoult. It's the Nicholas Hoult effect. And James Gunn has to overcome not only the DC curse, but now also the Nicholas Hoult curse. And so I'm nervous about it. Rodney, I'm not going to be able to see Red 1 in advance. I just have not had a chance. So I'll cover its box office, but I'm not going to be able to see it in advance. Jareem, I don't know. I don't know who I cast in Superbia. I mean, who knows if and when it would ever get made. Leroy says, with a movie like Avatar spawning sequels, are the writers still using Bibles to keep details and stories straight? They're supposed to. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Steven, I'm a little bit behind on my comics. I spend a lot of money on comics I don't always read because, sometimes I'm just exhausted. Just Blaze Disney, I'm not sure when that Snow White trailer is coming. Maybe it's going to be in front of Moana. Maybe they're going to give it a minute because, of the discourse that's going on right now. We'll see what they decide to do. And then Ben 10 says, I'm seeing a lot of people thinking that Matt Reeves is going to adapt the Court of Owls for Batman 2. That would be great, but I just want Mr. Freeze as well, Ben 10. I think Court of Owls is too cerebral, for a mainstream film. People want to see a fun Batman villain, and Batman punch him in the face. Future movie actor says Civil War works pretty well as a Rorschach test movie. Everybody's going to see something different if it depends on the pub. That's true. Civil War was very well balanced in that we all took different sides. Some people were Team Tony and some people were Team Cap. I was surprised how few people seem to be Team Tony. All right, I better get going. I had a lovely time talking to everybody. You guys are just wonderful, as always. And I shall see you. I'm not quite sure what the other streams will be. There might be one tomorrow. There will definitely be one on Thursday because the Disney investor meeting is in the morning. There's a Disney investor call at 8:30 a.m. Isn't that ridiculous? Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. So I'll be doing a live shortly after to cover that. And then we'll have the BTT focus group on Friday. And we might go live as well tomorrow too. Let's see what's going on.